Hello, Americans. The network's recorded capacity demonstrate confirm that they force anyone who communicates with them or does business with them to to ignore their roles with criminal foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, fact treatment, nature, quality aspects in nature that are being and haven't been used remotely as collusion slash S. There are proofs that this is one of the reasons that President Trump is emphatic against fake news. And in other words, the names of the people of sciences are a certain type of victim slash hyper victim, and where they've had that, where they've had other things, others ourselves, communicated for our founders and communicated for nature. What nature communicates to us, nature communicates that we have black people's whites of eyes that are the same color eyes, while they are different color eyes at the same time. Nature is communicating to us about difference. I put a link to a Rob Schneider video or a little YouTube short, a joke when regarding um, Robert De Niro and regarding politics. Like he described, I believe Comedy Central. I don't know if it was Comedy Central or what it was, but the networks A through Z, they're a certain type of victim slash hyper victim. But if you treat them that way properly, as it is relative where and how they have roles with predicate acts with facts and whole organized crimes methods and pretending not to realize. It was is through the roles with the security, their difference of their guilt, the people next to the communications locations, or the people who's exceptions. This has people, in other words, collusion slash S with the other news locations pretending they have integrity but they don't. And while they have delusions. In other words, WFSB, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others and with my family. They put me to fake and changed communications with my family and about the World Trade Center attack. And I was in with part of my family in the World Trade Center in the court next to it, the Ninth Circuit Court in Manhattan, New York, was right next to the World Trade Center towers, right before they were taken down by the attackers in the planes. And these were our people involved through time with that were involved with the plots, where they had timed and have timed use slash S effective remotely of America's name and of Saudi Arabia's name as timed collusion slash S with a whole bunch of other countries involved with the World Trade Center and quality aspects and natures of trade still influenced by like psychology. It's only concentrated there. No, which is also concentrated within as the identities of the three branches of government and of the intelligence tied to them. They have been putting fake things in databases while tactically delusions raw, incapable of defending their values by difference slash differences and of affording discerned how nature could answer our questions for the way it communicates with difference, which it communicates nature itself. Don't leave out. It doesn't use this with words. And nature shows us true all ways that a human fact treatment nature breaching method is one of the things that caused black pupils, whites of eyes, to no one allowed to appreciate what it communicates, the revelations that come with it, by the identity of value slash value progression that it's showing us too, other species bodies, of individual bodies with all group differences. No, they also have two eyes, distinctly from ourselves, but also non-distinctly, and simultaneously, but also for a distinct distinct identity of simultaneous nature. So I'm going to refer to that as the hyper simultaneous. And so we are inside the complete identity of all space slash existence, just like a tip of your nail or a tip of a hair on your head is inside your complete identity. That's because, and it stays that true because every identity is completed by what we are a semi-nature to. which is showing us this because the relativity note slash hyperrelativity of the species volume sciences. The species volume is plural science, singular. We also can discern that there are three distinct identities of time that are increasingly valued. Like the part of the past that we know it's true always, as truth slash truths always. We know that we are shown that there's one distinct identity of truth, of hyper truth. All this comes with, and all these, there are all kinds of demonstrations of how it is functional, how the identity of all space slash existence is hyper invisible but still discernible, distinctly from how it is invisible but still discernible. And this is what the grammars, the English grammar, and the other ancient languages were revealed to teach. Even anything that could be made up like a language. For the same volume science slash S, inseparable from all parts of each thing, inseparable from the group parts of it, and inseparable from the simultaneous parts of it, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously slash hyper simultaneously, per how it is discernible. Are capable of being discerned distinctly from the invisible. All parts of speech are about the invisible, but still discernible. What we are discerning with the present participle and past participle, the gerund, the predicate. These are names hyper-additional for a verb. We are shown what is distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously slash hyper-simultaneously. The identity of forever nature that has the present participle and the past participle, regardless of which one is used, where and how we appreciate them as a manifest value, and where and how they are manifest. See present and past, and those are two parts of time we know are true always. But again, it is functional how there are invisible but still discernible parts of itself too, like the seasons that are not even here yet, even if they never get here yet. Their complete identity is shown to us to an extent. Its complete identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that is shown to us ourselves. Also, the special differences, but we have been forbid the quality of fact treatment nature necessary to handle this. The differences between the parties, the differences between colors, leaving out the breaching method, and then defending that through hyper additional real and only apparent motivations, even when they are real. This is everyone's a certain type of victim slash hyper victim that doesn't know how to appreciate free speech because they have never heard it unabridged, because they have had replaced with James Matt replaced and employed to be to be used as functionally to measure and maintain self-value roles with it replaced as the types of experts of the names of the people of the sciences. And per this preaching method that knew that they would demonstrate that self-value to people coming up who might become experts on sciences. And that's going to, and that was his collusion slash S, even though they don't know. But then that was his sustained, so they know that to an extent. And it's because we know we can't speak about that. There's too many countries. We didn't know this until we got declassified on it. How could they know about it? You guys leak things. Central Connecticut State University have also forged and switched names with the courts, involved with the police forms, plural, intercities, involved intercities and intra-campuses too, with identity theft, fraud, slander. First of all, I want to say I only ever had love for all you guys, people of Wethersfield. I do not want to have a conversation with anyone though until I get this on paper, because in other words, you could good people are evil too. And so when we have the nature of communications about black pupils' rights of eyes and the significance of it, like how it could be used as evidence, hyper-evidential, relative, to where and how they've been using our differences as an age to multi-front at countries A through Z. Our breaching method knew that what it caused originally and what it forced all to roles sustain with, and what that caused. It invested all in nature's demonstrations of it, invested all to roles, needs, natures, and styles, keeping other things other than themselves blamed for nature's demonstrations of that, like with black people's rights of eyes. And they've been putting us to fake and changed communications. And the difference of that was is also exploited. And these were our roles interstates with totally different cases, legal cases, criminal and civil, where they have names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, names at and next to all natures of crime scenes. Involved also with interbranch forging and switching names, also with the differences of their positions like judge, prosecutor, victim's advocate. There was a victim's advocate with the Britain Superior Court when I was a kid. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a whole bunch of people with drugs and medicines crimes, with the foreign and domestic military, on off Elm Streets in Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, on off the corrections offices, and on off the judicial branch offices, which is conjunctive to both Elm Streets and Wethersfield and Rocky Hill. A bunch of people tied to Ray Colo, and people tied to him. I never tried to seek contact. I never tried to seek out an Oliveri in my life. Eric Oliveri confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed there's a Craig Oliveri and a Joshua Stryker involved with him, intercities, on off campuses, putting fake things in databases and or roles, and identity theft, fraud, slingers, lying by himself and others. And they have roles with the places next to the campuses too, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. You know, he's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, but also with people a bunch of ways with markets, positions, and buildings that used to be associated with it. It's changed because of the nature of things, changed the technology. And also because of where and how the names of the people of the sciences at countries A through Z are being and have been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, roles of predicate acts with facts, methods, needs, natures, and styles, but speaking about crimes anyway, where and how as collusion /s, including with the value of their locations or differences as branches, or as intelligence tied to them, or the differences of guilt, which is used to screen the hyper-foreign, which comes with the foreign also being having been one of the things at A through Z. Criminal foreign influences were blamed and are blamed exactly the way the hyper-foreign needs. Nature needs us to understand how we are inseparable as a species body, and where and how that won't mix at the same time. We are individuals of the individual species body with all group differences, demonstrating how it has three identities, a relationship to its singular self. For example, a part that mixes with matter, a part that will not mix with matter, and a part that mixes anyway. There are many pray. But you know this, where and how it is not us, nor is it the other species bodies that invented how we have two eyes, other quality aspects of nature, distinct, non-distinct, simultaneous / hyper simultaneous, for what is not us nor them, but is all things anyway. So many are praying for how to respond, fact, tribute, nature wise, to where and to how. We know on a mass scale that the sciences were and are abridged. These are not our human potentials. People, just because someone jumps in and says they don't agree with us doesn't mean they're honest. That's how and why the momentum never gains. And it's worse. For example, the FBI have a Joshua Julian. They have a whole bunch of people directly and indirectly involved with Joshua Julian, with organized crime groups and identity theft, fraud, slanders, with foreign and domestic medical, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, with grammar school kids and with middle school kids that don't even have classes with each other, spreading rumors together and fake motivations, fake ties, fake natures of ties. And one of the most frustrating things are collusions with lying about where and how people know each other. And they're because they're putting behavior act with differences. They have that, and per a method that keeps victims as their differences, like boys and girls, little boys and girls, or adults, men and women. Those differences were exploited multi-front. And that's right where, too, how they get away with, even though it's overtly slash insidiously in our faces, Americans wanted and need other for elderly homes. You know what I'm saying? And for their means. But they have probate court judges involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes with the state judicial branch offices and with people where they are locked into elderly homes and veteran homes. You know, in other words, just all the junk that could have been made into, know how the veterans buildings look just like those buildings in the background of New York, of like Nas videos. You know what I'm saying? Rap videos. It's tactical. It's tactically denatured, designed for torture, extortion, and slavery. And anyone who denies that will have inherent to, active to, and progressive to their fact, cheap nature, quality aspects of nature, demonstrations of the same thing, and relative collusion slash S. There are all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes that interbranch have been with the state judicial branch offices. Increasingly, it is with people in all natures of conjunction to the state judicial branch offices and conjunctions to that, like Two Route Highway, Hang Dog Lane, and their conjunctions, like the Berlin Turnpike before the heart of Hartford, and those corners there, and originally and still involved with people with multiple police departments and courts, and names on all sides of criminal and civil cases and news putting the same sequence shifts, delusions. This is why how people are still speaking about the names of the people of the sciences, even comedy, with difference, but we have not. No one allows anyone to speak about how nature communicates about difference. We have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time, and we pay attention. Everything's about its difference being shown to us. A distinct identity of hyper invisible, but still discernible. That identity of forever nature, showing us its difference as a forever nature from as it only part of itself is with time. We are a quality of diffusion, but now through and as systems, an evaluation of that and an appreciation of that syntactically ulterior from its own. Only natural, only positive treatments as criminal insidiousness nature. And that is self-valued not for the known reasons. That is self-valued because the breaching method only allowed collusions with the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures and defenses would be to self-value rules with and as criminal insidiousness nature as a means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and nature. And the nature of debate regarding it, incapable of being entertained and of affording defenses necessary, fact, be nature-wise, of our potentials, health, evolution's fruits and gifts, means out of nowhere. In many ways, especially differentially, where we are in quality and how we are quality as fact, be nature. On a mass scale, there is acting tied to predicate acts with facts and roles, needs, and natures who pretend not to realize that. On a mass scale, they will fake and change our words, including the agencies themselves. The FBI had roles with Wethersfield police through time. They attached me to fake conversations with themselves as a kid and now as an adult, as their roles with names are also recorded collusion /S with Saudi, also with people with the name O'Neill, regardless if that guy is even related to someone who went after bin Laden. There are people next to Central Connecticut State University on all sides of it, involved with Harper Courts and the Britain Superior Court, involved with a whole bunch of different countries before the World Trade Center attack. Since I was a kid, New Britain and intercities have been roles putting predicate acts next to the campuses of all ages and natures and they're building upon that. They're screening roles with the worst roles with criminal enterprises and terrorists to screen roles with predicate acts with facts. All kinds of all kinds of just saying and doing whatever, and just valuing that having been done to get things going before courts, police forms, or politics that never stopped being used and having been used. Self value too. Wow, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw / hyper criminally foreign influence. There was that distinct nature of criminal foreign influences with the method that had sickly non-distinctly things like slavery, northern colonies and southern colonies, but distinctly, but also non-distinctly. And we were supposed to we're supposed to understand that instantly, but people haven't, not because they did their homework, because the homework is designed to measure and maintain self-value roles, communicating other than what our founders communicated for themselves, which comes with how they communicated. They did about how and why they did not have free speech. It was a human fact-driven nature breaching method. Everyone had already been an extent of collusion / S with their fact treatments and or their fact treatment nature, and the difference of that depended in self-value, syntactically, used remotely. And they had to pretend they had free speech to an extent or be sensed through their own. That was what was dictated by those laws, which we know laws can be criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, a part of a human fact treatment nature breaching method. But see, if someone says this, anyone only heard at our formal locations, other being and having been communicated for that. Right, where and how people need to and have been pretending passions and emotions about integrity they never was there. So increasingly, each of the campuses I went have people that will tell you. In other words, they're just repeating what other people say. I was only nice with them. I never had problems with anyone. Some people tried to make it look like other into databases, and they hid what was recorded every time with that. Has something to do with his roles with Russians and Koreans too. Some kid who attacked me. I was attacked at corners at different times, at different schools, and there are connections between those people. And I don't even know all their names. Like one of them was a senior, and I was I think he was a senior. I was a freshman, and I put him in a headlock, whatever, like that. And then there were some narratives about it with one of the teachers before I had that teacher. And that's one of the ones reason I took that teacher instead of taking another teacher, which I wouldn't have done that. These are people involved with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, people involved with Joe DeMauro, Heather Hansen, recorded capacity demonstrated confirmed they have a whole bunch of people from Wethersfield involved with Central Connecticut State University. And I'm sorry, class family, but Heather Hansen, Joe DeMauro said at Heather Hansen, and she said too, confirmed, she had not just with him, but other home break-ins in my area they have roles with. And the police hid this, including roles with guns. That's why they hid how I did things with guns. They knew about it, but they never said anything. Like with the when I caught them breaking in my house or break the window with Heather Hansen and Joe DeMauro, and they said they were jogging to the officer, they said. They have all kinds of wire crime acts and methods. Joe DeMauro was after he was recorded. I recorded him putting fake things like fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. He's got a John DeMauro, a brother, involved with medical and sexual offenders of kids, with the houses and businesses next to Harvard Hospital, involved in intercities with the campuses and people planting evidence on all sides of the kids' houses too, with their family members. These are family members of doctors and of nurses associated with judges and prosecutors personally and professionally, criminally foreign influence, and people a whole bunch of ways and conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices. There are a whole bunch of predicate acts with facts, methods, recorded needs, and natures who have been speaking about crimes. No, anyway. crimes way worse, way less, they're way worse than would they've been against the people, the way worse than they've been reporting on and sending people to jails for. These are increasingly people involved with the jails and with the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices using their jails to torture the people that to come before them that really did crimes, like serial killing and things like that. Even if it was made up, well, the jail is torturing those people to hide what they were. They had roles of those crime scenes and the names next to it involved with predicate acts with them. I don't know the people that Justin Klavinskas pretended tied to me with his syntax and implied it like it was a liquor store near the body dumping spot of the serial killer. And a body dumping spots, plural. So in other words, it was people with the gas station, the McDonald's, a Subway, that liquor store, people with foreign and domestic military, people with Yukon, with roles with Harper, Connecticut, with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes and relative delusions, psychiatry and foreign and domestic military. Yukon has roles with the World Trade Center attack, with people from Cuba also with psychiatry and badges anyway, next to Harvard Hospital too, with a whole bunch of people tied to the name Scalora, also with Florida. Florida has roles also with Central Connecticut State University, with intelligence on all sides of its campuses, of its campus and at its campus, involved with a whole bunch of different natures of predicate acts and roles with Wethersfield families that are involved with wire crimes, identity theft, fraud, things, but they're just repeating what other people say, and they're hiding and faking things. And it's not personal. They were trying to put fake ties, and they're leaving out the foreign names. They have roles with a whole bunch of different countries. They're doing whatever and saying whatever to make it look like these are things that I brought up too. They're leaking. The same ones that are pretending not to, even though they get hurt for leaking that. They're doing bad things with those campuses together. Increasingly, the intelligence community has people next to where the Wethersfield Police Department is now, involved with a whole bunch of countries, involved with intercities with the campuses, but it's concentrated with Yukon and Central Connecticut State University, with foreign and domestic military, intermilitary too. There's a Paul Kelly, and that Mark Violet, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, is involved with him. They have people with victims advocates involved with various natures of organized crimes, including sexual crimes against little girls, keeping equality of fact treatment nature of collusion/S with all natures of crime scenes by forcing people to stay in jails and things like that are also collusions, putting fake and change recorded reality. So get me off the fake conversations with Channel 3 News, WFSB, the Gail King. They are confessing, recording, demonstrating. I never had a conversation with you, but they're recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming it's involved with that. And their roles intercities and intra-cities of Connecticut, increasingly with people next to WFSB Connecticut, Channel 3 News too. Rather than fix the fake conversations with me, no, they're lying about what they think about what I say online too. Let's get the interbranch onto paper too. Judge Napolitano, I've been asking in the comments of his live streams, because the police forms and the courts already recorded using and having used wire and mail crime acts and methods, and using stacking fake things in databases so they could keep subject treatments, leaving out exceptions, exception nature, and their collusion/S. All exceptions and exception nature come with demonstrations of the same thing. Exception nature is actually recorded. There's an officer Poison who looks like and record that if that's the same person. It's a sick, disgusting, demented guy, and they're using their own differences and other people's differences as his roles with digital crimes with a principal upskirt nature, and with more people with the name Dylan, and with a Judge Smith and a Judge Killian, also with some digital and sexual and other natures of organized crime with their families against little kids and elderly and veterans. and their neighbors, including how they have their kids. The kids of a Judge Killian are involved also with the family members of a Delafair family with probate court judges that have been putting fake things in databases, fake ties and natures of ties between kids that aren't even on see each other around campuses, never were in a class together. Increasingly, in other words, I can't get them on paper, one name and sequence. They have roles with town lines. A Delafair family has been planting evidences with the intelligence communities, with shopping centers and malls, involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, overt child sexual and medical offenders of kids, people next to Harvard Hospital, and people from other countries involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with them. And with the FBI Director Robert Lusk and his co-defendants, their family members and neighbors. There's a Dawn LaConche, too. I never had a word of conversation with her. There are proofs that they took a picture of me on a porch of in Hamden of a Heather Hansen and a Joe DeMora to make it look like a fake exception where they would bring it up where it would show them guilt, but they constantly are and have been used remotely to state offices in all sides of cases, in the courts themselves, in the police forms. Then they're shown needs to hide that at other locations by using any instance and thing that comes before them too. How do you think they got away with leaving out black people's rights of eyes from the subject so critical like slavery? How do you think they got away with valuing our founders' words, leaving out how they didn't have free speech? That's declassified. How do you think they got away with having the experts used to pretend they don't realize that? Let's get them on paper, one name and sequence. And that's why the people of New York are manifest with the difference of political parties hid behind as collusions, where how there are worse than not just fake sciences on the people of New York City. They are criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, wrought predators at all locations /s. Then further with database identities of relativity to it, and then further with the campus's relativity to it, criminal insidious natures of positive treatments and negative treatments, collusions to keep out also that identity of relativity to ourselves, of the human fact treatment nature breaching method, which is an identity of relativity to positive and negative, simultaneously tactical terror from how the identity that is all things at once is, who disbelieves. So Connecticut's Channel 3 News has Gail King recorded confessed people and people tied to her a number of different ways, involved at and next to Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, involved with and as names, involved next to and at WFSB in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, and next to and at WTNH. And next to them is also the FBI and people who were just temporary, like were in there. And in other words, increasingly also through silence, they bring their girlfriends and their intimate ties into this. And one of the things that interbranch do is get their intimate ties involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against others, and with differences like black and white. That's why, in other words, anything serious, they can't be about serious. They have to bring things like pretend things are serious, like war, as fakes. Well, all formal positions are fakes. They have to pretend other by hurting people with fact treatment nature and with time, not legitimately. Otherwise, that would have been surfaced. So Sandy Hook campuses has roles with names off the Connecticut State Corrections Offices, judicial branch offices in the Capitol, the state capitol, and all natures of campuses, including fire campuses, families running in, some of their members running in to Harvard Hospital's campus to hide life progressions, to act as patients or as real patients, as collusion /s with murders intercities, all kinds of planting fake things to hide their collusions with all kinds of natures of things, and body dumping spots, and how this brought up with other time use /s of past crimes. Got brought up at the same time. Such things are recorded hyper-evidentially with Facebook, right where they were pretending to perceive other things recorded. Facebook is involved with Wethersfield Police in the Britain Superior Court and Harper Courts and FBI refusing to identify themselves legitimately. The recorded express demonstrated confirmed all along Route 3 and its conjunctions like 2-hour highway, Hangdog Lane, are people involved with federal crimes with them, federal evidences crimes with them, and with people involved with New Britain Superior Court, including with a traffic ticket they gave me. That officer is involved with organized crimes and child abusers and people involved with the with mentally disabled people. And like the special people that cover them, they're using them for fake motivation. The collusion cover-ups where use of location /s remain. Hyper-criminally foreign influence. We're gonna who disbelieves that criminally foreign influences are only allowed to speak for the names of the people for with science about science regarding the impositions upon New York City. What worst causes murders in New York City? The torture, extortion, slavery, and the collusion. See, these courts have collusion. These people with the corrections in Connecticut and the judicial branch offices, they have rules with Fred Gruzet and others with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and human trafficking. There are proofs, even if it's not, even it's indirectly only through the rules with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and strangers planting evidence on my street, relative. And they have roles with retired police chiefs, with foreign and domestic medical families, and people next to campuses and planting evidence, identity theft, fraud, slanders. Let's get them on paper, one name in sequence. Let's go.